Hello everyone, let's review the results for November's 3-card blind tournament together. There were 107 participants this month, split across 4 groups, and there were 89 unique decks submitted. The most popular card this month was Mishra's Workshop, which had a 14.88% meta share. This is the second month in a row where Mishra's Workshop has been the most popular card, and it's not hard to see why given that it allows you to deploy so much power early on in the game, so it's not a surprise that it does manage to achieve a respectable 56% average score. While we're on the subject of Mishra's Workshop, I think it's also appropriate to mention Lupine Prototype, which was the month's 3rd most popular card with an 11.14% meta share and a whopping 64% average score. The reason I want to discuss these two cards together in the context of you understanding the meta is that Lupine Prototype and Mishra's Workshop are very frequently paired together. Mishra's Workshop is arguably the strongest mana source in the format, and it turns out Lupine Prototype might be the strongest card that Mishra's Workshop can deploy. As a matter of fact, in our high elo group, 5 out of 26 players submitted a deck that contained Mishra's Workshop and Lupine Prototype, and 4 of those 5 decks were the exact same deck: Mishra's Workshop, Lupine Prototype, and Trinisphere. The next notable aspect of the meta I'd like to discuss is that Balance got unbanned. There were a lot of players who were really excited to play with this powerful piece that had been on the ban list for a while, so it shouldn't be surprising that it was the 6th most popular card this month with a 6.53% meta share and a 57% average score. With it, Balance brought a few new decks into the meta. For example, the Balance Dunes of the Dead Mox Pearl deck, which aims to blow up the opponent's board and hand simultaneously while leaving you with a 2/2 zombie, or the Atraxi Warden Balance Remote Farm deck, which aims to suspend Atraxi Warden and cast Balance before it comes off of suspend. I think one of the final pieces of context that I'd like to discuss in regards to November's meta is how Brewers responded to the rack being banned. It turns out cards like Shrieking Affliction and Wheel of Torture are basically the we have the rack at home versions of the rack. Some players came prepared for this and used Undiscovered Paradise as a secret tech to help counter these cards, but for the most part, Shrieking Affliction and Wheel of Torture performed very well, with a 62% and 70% average score respectively. Now that you're caught up to speed, let's go into covering our winners. In Group D, our winner was Koitru, who was playing Mindrake, Mishra's Factory, and Mox Jet. This decklist might look familiar to you because it was used in October, but to much less effect. In October, this same decklist only got a 43% average score, whereas Koitru using it in November managed to get a 79% average score. I think this helps demonstrate that there are a lot of very strong decks in the format, but many of those decks rely heavily on their opponents forgetting that those decks exist and failing to plan around them. Koitru managed to capitalize on this to great success. In Group C was another familiar deck submitted by Tribesman, who was playing Dark Depths, Thespian Stage, and Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, with an average score of 78%. One of Dark Depth's biggest natural predators, Wasteland, is still on the banned list, and its other big predators, like Caracas and Alpine Moon, were entirely absent from Group C. In Group B, we had a tie between Plonk and Rubber Ducko, who both happened to be playing the same deck list, which was Channel, Hickory Woodlot, and Ulamog the Infinite Gyre. For a long time now, this decklist has been one of the highest win rate decks that hasn't been affected by a ban. However, prior to this month, that statistic was based off of an incredibly small sample size because the only time that this deck had seen play was back when I was running this tournament with just my group of immediate friends. So it does feel somewhat vindicating to see this deck perform as well as it did, given that it historically had only had 30 games played, and they were played by me back from when I was participating in the tournament rather than just facilitating it. Alright, and moving on to Group A, both our our winner and our champion overall, Subnova 42, somehow managed to come out on top again. Subnova was playing Lupine Prototype, Mishra's Workshop, and Wheel of Torture, which should look eerily familiar to a lot of you because in the month prior, Subnova came in first place with practically the same deck, which was Lupine Prototype, Mishra's Workshop, and the Rack. Once again, the consistency at which Subnova continues to perform is a testament to his skill, but I think it's also worth noting that this style of deck of having Lupine Prototype, Mishra's Workshop, and then some kind of rack is obviously extremely effective in this format. With that, I'd like to congratulate our winners one more time and move on to discussing which cards will be up for ban voting for the tournament that will be run in December. As usual, this list of cards is put together based off of the results of the tournament run in this month, as well as the community's sentiment around these cards. So the list this time around is Balance, City of Traders, Lupine Prototype, Mishra's Workshop, Shrieking Affliction, and Urza's Saga. And I'm going to quickly run through the reason why each of these is on the list. Although it was exciting to see Balance become legal again, there are many players who have expressed that the card can be frustrating to have as part of the meta because frankly, Balance hits just about everything and there isn't a lot of ways to play around a card that wipes your board, discards your whole hand, and destroys all of your lands. The next card on the list is City of Traders, which is a card that I have been pushing for to be banned for a while, despite the fact that the card had an even 50% win rate in the month of November. It has routinely been one of the most popular cards in almost every single month, and it helps fuel a number of other cards that have been extremely popular, such as Urza's Saga and Retrofitter Foundry. I don't think that City of Traders is unfair by any stretch of the imagination, but I think by putting it on the ban list, at least temporarily, so that we can see how Ancient Tomb operates in its stead, will give us a more critical look into lands that can produce more than one mana on turn 1 as a whole. Next we have Lupine Prototype, which, similar to City of Traders and often paired with City of Traders, has been routinely extremely popular. However, unlike City of Traders, Lupine Prototype hasn't had a negative win rate since back in July. I think one of the things that is exciting about 3-card blind is you often get to see cards like Lupine Prototype that really don't have much of a place in other formats excel in this format. But that being said, we have seen so much Lupine Prototype, and it performs so much better than almost every other 2-drop that it hampers card diversity as a whole. As mentioned earlier in the video, Mishra's Workshop was extremely present in our high elo group, and it has been extremely popular and successful in this format for some time now. This card has certainly earned a place in the timeout zone as far as I'm concerned, and I'd like to see it added to the ban list temporarily. Shrieking Affliction is on this list because we banned the Rack, and there's good reason to believe that players that did not like the Rack will also not like Shrieking Affliction. So this will be an opportunity for those same players to continue to express their opinion about which types of cards they'd like to see legal in the format. The last card on the list is Urza's Saga, which did perform quite well this month. It had a 57% win rate, but the real reason that this card is on the list is because many of the game gurus who are responsible for calculating matches for the tournament and keeping the tournament running as a whole have expressed that Urza's Saga takes up a huge amount of their time in processing matches. The card on its own isn't that demanding in terms of performing match calculations, but it's often paired with cards like Elixir of Immortality that just make everything a headache in terms of dealing with the card. Okay, and that wraps up both the meta overview as well as the list of cards that the community will be able to vote on for bans for December. If you want to participate in the ban vote or review some of the results from November yourself, please go to 3cardblind.com to check out the website. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon.